Satnam, welcome to the One Flow podcast. My name is jaigopal, and this is Jamila Tazwell, my lovely partner in crime.
Hi.
So we're here today at the kitchen table once again. People really liked that first inaugural episode of the kitchen table, which was cool.
Fun.
Pretty psyched about that. So today we're going to talk a little bit about health, particularly the 3 pillars of health. It's something that Jamila brought to my attention that she just came across, and it's actually really interesting because it's kind of stuff that we've been working with for a while. We've been doing a lot of health stuff thanks to Jamila because she's really good at that stuff and she's very interested in it. But like alternative health stuff, definitely not mainstream. So, over the last few years, we've been trying a lot of new things, trying to get like healthier and, some hits and misses, but now
we've been through a lot.
Been through a lot with that, and
it's been a real adventure.
We plan to cover a lot of it, but the good news is why we're doing this is because we've kind of had like a breakthrough. We found some really cool stuff in the last few months, this last year, and it's stuff that's really working for us, which is really cool. But we're kind of framing it in this 3 pillars of health,
but
which
it's not our thing. No,
it's not our thing. 3 pillars of health is something. I'll let you talk about it because you.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I'm not an expert. I learn everything on Instagram, and I'm an artist.
Yeah. and this is not financial advice, okay?
Or health advice.
This is not health advice. It's not financial advice.
So
it's just fun stuff. We're having fun.
Well, no, I just want
to. It's for entertainment.
I just want to disqualify myself right off the bat. But I am really curious, and I have had a lot of challenges that I've made a ton of progress on by going the unconventional route, and I laugh at myself because it's always something new, and I'm always excited about something new, but I'm also really receiving benefit from new things all the time. So anyways, I was listening to a podcast the other day in the car, which is, a normal thing. I listen to so many podcasts, and it's so enriching. And so I'm happy to give back in just this tiny way by showing up on this podcast and sharing, because I much prefer just hiding in my little corner bubble.
Okay.
But I'm doing this because I've learned so much from podcasts. So I'll just share a little bit on my podcast, on your podcast.
I'm going to interject here. This is an example of somebody being humble, because she constantly blows my mind. She's like, hey, I was listening to this podcast and I heard this, and of course I'm Mr. Jaigopal, big ego walker. Don't bother me. I'm too busy with all my big Jaigopal stuff. And then she goes, no, you really need to listen to this podcast. It's really good. So all right, just because I'll do it for you, baby. And I'll listen to it. And then I'll listen to it. I'm like, it blows my mind. I'm like, where'd you find this? And she's like, I told you. Isn't it great?
This is the thing, is that
I have one more thing to say. I'm sorry. So she has a nose for finding these things, and so she plays it down like she doesn't like, but she's really good at this stuff, and the stuff that she's gotten is really awesome. That's why we want to share it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I just want to say I think it's so amazing to live in a time where we can learn from each other so easily. There's no gatekeepers on knowledge anymore, and if you're curious and you have a device of pretty much any kind, you can go and find it. So anyways, all this really fascinating stuff, and especially in the last 3 years about health, I've become more obsessed with health and new approaches to health than ever. So anyways, I was listening to this podcast. It's actually Sarah Kleiner's wellness podcast. I think that's what it's called, but if you look up her name, I'll put it in the show notes because I've been learning a ton from her. Yeah, he'll put it in the show notes. I've been learning a ton from her lately about quantum health, which is like, it's really paying attention to the foundations of health, and it's related to a word called mitochondriacs, which is similar to our joke between us that we're superchondriacs. Because we're about optimizing. We are obsessed more than the average bear about health, and it can be either a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, it bears explaining. So I was sitting here, and one day I was kind of like, are we hypochondriacs? We're hypochondriacs here because we're just constantly doing, like Felix Unger from The Odd Couple, like, he always had some kind of sickness, right? He was always like, I'm getting something. And so we were like that. But then, when you realize the world has got all these things that when you like drill down, there's a lot of garbage out there. And so like, we're not, and so I turned to Jamila, I went, we're not hypochondriacs. We're superchondriacs. And look,
So
we're
superfoods,
super foodies. We're superchondriacs.
We've embraced it. But anyway, so I was listening to her podcast, and she had this quantum dentist on. You'll see it if you go to her
Quantum dentist
from Australia. And the way he broke it down was so helpful because they were talking about the 3 pillars of health, quantum health. And it just stuck. It landed. And it's actually a concept that I think is more originating with a doctor named Dr. Jack Cruz, and you can look him up too, and the Mitochondriacs group on Facebook. It's a wealth of knowledge. But the 3 pillars are light, water, and magnetism. And when they said that, I was like, oh my God, thank you so much for making it so simple and so clear, and everything so much that we've been discovering for ourselves, and especially in the last year and the last like 6 months, have came into focus with that one sort of like distillation of the core tenets of this new paradigm of health. So when I shared it with jaigopal, I think just this morning, and he was like, yeah, it makes so much sense. So we wanted to share that with you, but then talk about those 3 pillars and some of the things that we've discovered just recently that have been helping us. And then maybe we'll do another show where we'll go down more of the roads of it, because there's so much to unpack.
That's just that. Those 3 things are a show in and of themselves. Water, light, and magnetism. You could basically do a whole show on water, I know for a fact.
For sure.
But we'll touch on like the top points of each of those. But when she mentioned it to me, I was like, wait a second, this makes a lot of sense. The body is 60 to 70% water.
No, we've already. I need to find my source literature on my point of view.
Everything we know is wrong. Just ask Jamila.
No, that's not true.
But water, our bodies are a lot of water. You can measure it. Tell me how much.
Majority. Let's just say high majority.
Our body's the majority of water. So that makes sense. That's a pillar of health. And then when you get into like how much water is controlled, how they try to control water so much, all of a sudden we turned a corner and we had to have bottled water. I grew up in New York City, and they were like, this is the best water in the world. It tasted good coming right out of the tap. Anyway, you can go down that, whatever rabbit holes you want with that. But the body is mostly water. Masaru Emoto did these studies on like that. The sound and your emotions affect the way water crystallizes. I was watching the show on Gaia. I had a little subscription there for a little while, and there was a guy talking about Antarctica, and he was talking about how their libraries were actually in the ice caps, which, okay, that sounds way out there to begin with. But then when you go into Masaru Emoto's work, and that you can kind of program water, there's the people that talk about programming water.
Absolutely.
That, because you can because you say a blessing over it. That's why we say grace with our food. There's water in our bodies, there's water there. It all starts to make so much sense. Can you imagine that? Like that you could imagine that, like that you have that sophistication, because we're pretty dumbed down on this planet, but that you could actually program water to and you could create a library with it in ice. Some people might think it's out there.
Structures that get frozen.
But to me, that's like, wow, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know that's coming, and that's pretty cool.
Well, it's a remembering of what we lost, I think, as a civilization. But I'd actually like to start with the light
instead of water? Okay.
Part of it.
Water is my forte.
But I really would love to unpack that too, at least a little bit in this time.
Yeah, we do broad strokes.
But the reason why I want to start with light is because that's been the biggest light bulb for me lately, is that I've been hearing about circadian health and syncing your biorhythms to the morning sun and limiting blue light at night. For the last couple of years, it's really been talked about more and more, but unless you're like looking for it, you might not be hearing that message at all. But as I said earlier, I'm obsessed with this stuff, so I'm constantly looking for points of view that are helpful. And so, anyways, it finally got through my thick skull, though, where I was like, okay, I'm going to really make it a point to get the morning light on my eyeballs and not be obsessed with like, oh, if I can't see the sun because the tree's blocking it, or I'm too tired to get out of my house to actually get the actual sunlight on my eyeballs, then it's just not worth it at all. It was explained to me that you just need to get your eyes exposed to the sky, even if there's
morning
sun
light.
Yes, even
morning
if the
light.
sun's being blocked by trees or buildings. It's important that in the first, I think it's probably first hour, but definitely like first half an hour from when the sun rises, to get your eyes and just look towards the east where the sun is rising, whether it's a cloudy day or not. That is sending so many signals to your brain and your mitochondria, and it's programming your hormonal health, basically. And so when it was explained to me that way, and I was like, oh, I can do that. And I can do that for 5 minutes, because they were saying, yeah, even 5 minutes will make a huge deal. Because like a year ago, remember, I was like, yes, we're going to take a walk in the morning.
Get
Like,
the
and
eyes
as long as the
vitamin D.
And the way it was explained to me then was, as long as your shadow is longer than you when you're like, walking in the sunshine, then you're getting the specific frequency band of light that's super important to program your hormones for the day. And we tried that, and I definitely felt a difference.
Yeah, it's
then.
getting started in the morning and seeing the light.
But it
first
was
light
really
is
it was
really
hard for me personally, because I've had like severe sleep issues, to consistently get up and like get dressed and get out into the dawn, early morning light, like out in public, like living in Los Angeles especially. Like, it was just, I couldn't maintain that. But when it was explained to me, like literally just open the window and expose your eyeballs to the eastern facing light, no matter if it's cloudy, whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, it's that important, it's that subtle, that I can try that, certainly. So I've been doing that the last couple of weeks, and that's been huge. But the other equally huge part is I finally bought a pair of those blue blocking glasses, which I
But now I
never.
think we need to unpack a little, because
Yes.
I didn't know about any of this stuff, and I just learned about it just from being lucky enough to be around this brilliant person here. But so we need to unpack a couple of things. First of all, we need to unpack in whatever order you want to do it in, but the blue light.
Mhm.
So I mean, there's probably a lot of people that know, but I up until recently, I didn't understand like the screens that we have give off blue light, and after a certain hour, that's not good for you. That's when I'm gonna let you go into
Yeah,
that. But
right.
but then mitochondria also. Everybody knows that word. Kind of, it's kind of like Bitcoin. We know the word, no, we don't understand it.
Yeah.
But mitochondria also. So there's like the blue light and the mitochondria, and then why and I think that'll paint a better picture of why getting that early morning light on the eyes and the blue blocking sunglasses and all that kind of stuff, and then what that does to the mitochondria.
Okay, well, just again, I am like,
don't disclaim it.
I know,
just
but
tell
seriously,
them what you know. Tell them
okay,
what you know.
what I know is that light.
Own it, girl. Own it. Own it. They don't care. They don't care. They just want to know what you know.
Look, okay, so light is basically informational energy. Okay, it's they like there's like popular like phrases in the new age where you're like downloading light codes, and I liked the way that sounded, but I still don't understand. No, but I still don't understand
I get repelled by most of this
no,
stuff.
No.
There's a box in me. No, like, light codes? We're talking light codes?
No, but
fuck the light codes.
But I'm starting to get it.
I know it makes sense. Look at me now.
It's information that's basically being downloaded, and it's signaling this complex, very sophisticated mechanisms we have, processes in the body. And so if you just think really simply about how humans evolved, and it doesn't matter what your point of view is, even about what historically is true. We know that in the last 100 years, or however long it's been since artificial light came on the scene, that humans' relationship to light has been drastically changed. And before the invention of light bulbs, we were very much more in sync with the rhythms of light of the nature. And so incandescent bulbs are one thing, but then the invention of LEDs is a whole other thing, that's it further divorced us from this natural rhythm. So that, I think, maybe answers part of your question.
Well, I make fun of light codes and stuff like that, but this is fascinating to me because when you start to unpack it and you start to pull back the layers of the onion on this, it's exciting. It makes so much sense to me, if I may go off on a tangent here. But like when you talk about light, right? First of all, the light of the sun, we know that the photons at this point, that the sun emits these, that basically spits energy in the form of light energy at the earth. But then the earth is spinning, and that's magnetism. It's a big magnet, and it's the reaction of the sun and the earth spinning together that creates the pranic energy, the negative ions in the atmosphere. And that's energy, that's magnetism. So it's all interrelated. And then the same thing we get into with the water is Victor Schauberger figuring out that water actually releases energy. And that's why the fish stay in one part of the river instead of another, because the way it's swirling, it's giving off energy. And he even discovered anti-gravity from that. So when you talk about this whole thing about these three pillars, makes so much sense. They're interrelated, and if you go into them and then relate them to your own health, you can get a lot healthier. But back to may I go on here for a second?
Sure,
the thing with this light and these light codes, I haven't really got into this whole idea of light codes. I hear people talking about it, and the problem is the characters that are talking about it, you're like, oh God, the way they say it, like, I'm going to light codes and I'm doing Instagram, whatever. Click. But there's something to it, So there's, and then you get down to the fact that the kundalini energy is the light of the soul, and you're sparking it with the breath, the prana, the apana, and then you're moving it up the spine and out into the aura. So basically, we're beings of light. Human being is a light being, light of the soul. So it all makes perfect sense. And so to go back to what you were saying before, artificial light changed everything for us. And then there's, of course, we get into the conspiracies. Why it just so happens that everything comes out and it's not so good for you. But it doesn't matter. I know it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But so it just so happens that a lot of this artificial light has detrimental effects on your energy system by seeing that light after the sun goes down.
So I've been hearing this for a while, and I accepted it. It makes sense, but I underestimated actually how much of a big deal this is, and so it's really been revealed to me personally in the last couple of weeks since I've been wearing these blue blocking glasses, which look ridiculous.
She looks hilarious.
Oh my God.
In a good way.
It's
kind of adorable.
But it's good that
I got pictures. I'm not allowed to share them.
No, are you kidding me? It's been all over Instagram. It's hilarious.
Oh, wait, who started sharing?
Oh, well, Rachel said I look like...
I heard BFF comes to town. She can send pictures on the Instagram. No. I take a picture. You better not take that. I swear to God, if I see it.
No. Well, Rachel said I look like a drug dealer, and I do.
At symbol Jamila Starwater. It's worth the trip. Go check out pictures of her with the blue block and sunglasses.
Well, they're past now anyways. Maybe I'll show another one. But anyways.
There were stories.
It was hilarious. You missed it. But anyways.
I'm posting pictures now. It's out there. I'm the what do you call, moratorium is off.
The seal's been broken. Right. So anyways, I look ridiculous in these glasses, but it does not matter. They are so amazing. the effect that it's had on me and my sleep just in the short amount of time. So I'm gonna be an evangelist for these blue blocking glasses now.
Yeah, Adam Zek was talking a lot about that too.
It's
Alec Adam Zek. Where did I get that from?
No, so we're gonna get you a pair, and then you'll be.
This is how I'm gonna know if he's listening to the podcast.
You'll be
hey, Adam, you call me Adam. What's up with that?
You're gonna be an.
I'm gonna get it, and I'm gonna look really cool. But here we're not unpacking it because I still don't completely understand it. What's up with this blue light? What does it do? It affects it kills the mitochondria, messes up the mitochondria. I mean, the sun, we know everybody lives by the sun.
It's basically like it's toxic for the body because it throws off your circadian rhythm. So you're not, it shuts off the production of melatonin. This is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, internet, but melatonin gets super kicked off its rhythm when you even looking at the phone at night one time to like look at the text or whatever.
During the day it's okay.
During the day it's okay. It's not
as long as you're getting out in the sun and you're not sitting in a cave all day.
Exactly.
So you got to get
getting
some
enough natural sunlight without sunglasses during the day. That's the
natural
thing.
Sunlight without sunglasses, so that we get
you're getting the natural light in your eyes,
which improves the mitochondria, which gives energy to the cells.
Well, right? You're asking the wrong person about the exact mechanism of action.
Okay,
and I'm here to introduce concepts, and that people can be interested in and learn the actual
DYOR, do your own research.
Details.
But I'm just trying to understand it for myself, and I know you know this stuff. So, natural sunlight on the eyes strengthens the mitochondria, which helps. But my understanding is that it gives energy to the cells.
Well,
the mitochondria is in the cells.
It helps to be on rhythm. See, everything boils down to rhythm, which is totally related to the electromagnetic piece
which is the whole basis of kundalini
which
yoga.
Is the magnetism piece of this 3-pillar thing. Mm-hmm. So they're all interrelated. Because I was contemplating this before we started. I was like, where does like mantra fit into this? Sound current fit into this magnetism. 3. It's all 3 though.
It's all 3.
It's all 3.
Because it affects the water in the body.
Yeah.
And it creates light.
So, that's why, we're always talking about mantra. And I think it can be taken the wrong way, like it's some sort of like dogmatic thing, but it's
I've stopped caring about that.
But I want to, I don't care either, but I think it's important to try to be clear in the communication. Yeah. And, I talk about this stuff because it just works, I'm not into the dogmatic sides of things. I'm interested in actually functional things, and so that's why I talk about mantras, because it's one of the things that actually works, that you can access, and anybody can access with any sort of device. You can learn about a mantra, whereas not when I was born, which I mean, I know I'm old, but I'm not that old, like that was not possible to access this information. So I'm amazed. I'm so grateful to be alive right now. I think it's like the best time ever.
I agree. So the light pillar, getting natural sunlight, being out in the sun, but particularly in the morning, get sunlight, natural sunlight on your eyes. Don't look directly in the sun, obviously, but you would get that morning light.
At a certain angle, really low to the ground, you can look directly at the sun.
Yeah, but we're not sophisticated enough for that. So we tell everybody, don't look at the sun directly.
I'm not making medical claims, and I'm not an expert, whatever.
Because you can damage your eyes like that. But what do they call it? Casually off center. You can get like from the sky, the light reflecting off of stuff. You want to get that in that first half hour to hour when the sun comes up. Mm-hmm. We're laymen here, right? We're learning about it. We just know it's good for you. It helps the mitochondria and it helps the cells.
Well, we're inspired. It helps
set the rhythm for the day.
Yeah, we're inspired, but also it's working. Like I'm having an experience.
That's the most important experience.
Profound shift in my sleep since I've been doing those 2 things. So anyways, that's the light piece. I don't know if you want to go further down that road into the life wave patches or whatever else, because we have a lot to say.
Yeah, well, we can touch on that.
But we can go back into it later.
I just want to kind of recap, because like we're all over the place. So getting the morning sunlight, and then the unnatural light after sunset is not good for you because it throws off your rhythms, right? So
your circadian rhythms, which I think most of us have heard that word. Circadian rhythm gets thrown off. Your melatonin production.
Circadian reminds me of like being in rhythm with the sun and the earth as it
Yeah.
comes up, right? So
Yeah.
so we're not separate. We've been taught that we're separate, but we have the sun rises and sets. Actually, the earth moves around the sun. The sun doesn't
Well,
move.
we're not sure about that.
We're not sure. We're not sure if the earth is flat. I'm sticking to what I know for now until I can improve this stuff. There's so much crazy shit going on out there in the world. All I know is that I just take care of what's going on in my day. But so circadian rhythm. So basically being in rhythm, or what you know, and Yogi Bhajan talks about. They call it the central biorhythm. That's what he calls about. So that's why you play mantra at night. Haji is always talking about playing mantra at night while you sleep, because when you wake up, if that's the first thing that hits you is this high vibrational mantra, then you're more likely to get onto the central biorhythmic current, which is probably more complex than just circadian rhythm.
But it is.
But that's part of it. So we're just talking about being. So we can simplify it by just going, we want to get in rhythm. And the light piece of this is getting natural sunlight, not natural sun on your eye, you know, in your sight, or just light. In the morning.
It's not necessarily sun.
Get the morning light.
If you live in a cloudy place, you know, or it's wintertime, you know, you're not out of luck. Like, this is really important for everyone in any climate.
Getting the morning light and not on the blue screens after sunset, or if you are on the blue screens after sunset, get these. They're called blue blocking sunglasses.
There's a bunch of brands that are good. And you know, we can share about that. But
now all of a sudden, I feel like people listening to this are gonna be like, "Duh, jaigopal, we all know this."
No, I don't. I don't think so. I think
a lot of people don't.
It takes repeating, because it's sometimes it's new concepts, and then sometimes things just click when you might have heard about it 10 times before, but then you're like, okay, I'm actually gonna try this. So I would say if someone's having trouble with sleep at all, that try this right away. But if you want to just do something easy to optimize and make yourself feel even better, maybe you already feel great, try this, and I think it'll even bump you up more.
And then, of course, all right, so then the sun also gives you the hormonal health, which is vitamin D, and there's probably all kinds of subtle things that we don't even know about.
Oh, there's so much. And if you're curious at all, there's tons of information out there now.
But on the light piece, I want to talk, like you said, I want to talk about these LifeWave patches. And we have absolutely no association with this company. In fact, I don't even know anything about it.
We're preferred customers.
We're preferred customers.
If they use our code, we get freaking
use our
points,
code.
Man.
I didn't know this. We get points. Use our code. We are associated with them. I
but that is not why we're sharing
about it. Because, all right, let me preface this. Most of my life, I don't know what changed. Maybe our marriage did it, but most of it, you told me I'd take a patch. It's got crystals in it. I put it in a certain part of my body. It's going to up my stem cells. Is going to make me heal. Right? Maybe I was just desperate, whatever. But actually, no, you know what it was? It's trusted sources. There's a couple of people in the world that I really trust that were using them and saying this stuff really works. In fact, one of them is Alex Zek. I have a tremendous respect for this young man who is doing amazing work with the way forward. I'm teaching Kundalini yoga on his platform, but he's a trusted source. So when he said, I tried these things and they worked, I was like, okay, I'm still super skeptical, but I'll try it, because I heard him talking about it, and then Jamila mentioned, I go, oh yeah, I heard them talking about it. I want to try it. She goes, what? You want to try it?
I know.
Because I'm always like Mr. New York. I'm like, get out.
I usually have to convince him.
I don't. You're gonna put a patch on. Okay, I'm just telling you. Personal experience. I said, well, let me try it. Maybe it's because I'm getting old and I'm just getting desperate to feel better. But I tried these things. But here's the thing, it's like there's clues. All these things, these 3 pillars, everything, it makes sense because of the Kundalini yoga, and that's when I go, because I studied Kundalini yoga for so long, I'm like, oh, yes, this is possible, and they're telling the truth. I'll tell you why. The 2 places they tell you to put them on, one of them is right below the belly button. What's 3 fingers below the belly button? The navel point, the center balance point of the body, the core. And then the other place they suggest to put it on is right under that bump in the neck, at the base of the neck. What's that? It's the 8th vertebrae where the prana comes into the body. So automatically, I know these people making the LifeWave patches, they know something. Maybe they're aliens. This alien technology come to save us. We need a savior. It's Easter tomorrow. We need a savior. But all right, so that's how I went and I noted. I didn't assume that they worked, but I was like, okay. So now you explain, because you know better than I do. What are these things and what do they do?
I don't know that much, but I know enough to try something when I looks interesting. And this certainly was interesting. So we got these patches. They're called LifeWave patches. You might have been hearing people talk about them because they're just kind of coming onto the scene, I noticed, in the last couple months. But basically, they're these little, like, they look like little stickers, little round stickers.
They look like a little circle Band-Aids,
like a little
actually.
Band-Aid.
They look like a little
circle
Band-Aid.
Band-Aid, yeah.
They got the little white thing in the middle.
So basically, it's this technology, this kind of crystalline technology in the part that looks like a little bandage, where it actually reflects the light of your body. So we're light beings. We are
the cells give off light.
But yeah, we're electrical beings.
Well, the aura. Yeah.
Yeah, but it takes your own light and it reflects it back to yourself at a specific angle, which I think is really interesting. That specifically stimulates your own stem cells to go and start repairing whatever part of your body that needs help the most. So it may be that your elbow's hurting, but it's going to go to, your pancreas first, because that's where you need more help, but you don't know that yet because you don't have symptoms yet, that type of thing. So that's the basic idea about how it works. So in January, we were like, okay, well, let's try them. So we've gotten them. We've been using them ever since. It's like, what, April now? And we both feel like it's been a pretty big, noticeable
100%. Well, so January was that culmination. I'm not going to go into it. It was that culmination of a tough time we were going through. And so I was like ready to try stuff to feel better. And, I'd heard about these things, trusted it. I did it. I'm telling you, well, we're doing a couple of things. There's another, we're not going to get into the other things just yet, but there's like, that in particular, then we will talk about hydrogen water because that's part of the water component, but we've been tried a couple of things and they all work, but I can kind of tell that these LifeWave patches work just based on what they are and my feeling of using them. I personally just felt stronger, okay? Stronger, more energy. And I can give you an example of it, which probably doesn't sound silly, but I don't care. For the longest time, dietary, I couldn't really drink caffeine anymore because I would get wiped out. Like I would just have to have some coffee after months and months and months and have a cup of coffee or two over a couple of days, and then I'd be wiped out. Like my kidneys wiped out. Also eating bread, just regular wheat.
You should show them your bread, by the way. And describe it for the people just listening.
Okay, this is a loaf of bread I made this morning.
But look how beautiful it is.
I got into baking again.
Describe it for the people on the...
Okay, this is a recipe that was on the back of Bob's Red Mill Artisan Bread Flour. And because I had to get the best. We're going to go on a whole tangent, but the people don't care because they're liking the stories. So you saw the bread. I'll put it away.
You're not describing it. It's beautiful, golden,
loaf, crisp.
That is absolutely perfectly formed.
We got to get back to this. Here we are, the daily bread. Tomorrow's Easter, the Lord's Prayer. Give us today our daily bread. Here it is.
But it's an Amish recipe.
It's an Amish recipe for Amish bread, and this one has. So you just it's a really great quick thing. You blah blah blah. You make it. It's ready in a couple of hours. Whereas the sourdough, which I also got into. It takes like a whole day to make it, but it's really worth it because it's amazing.
But this is just a little segue to say Jaigopal could never eat this freaking bread.
So this bread, as it is, with just regular wheat, maybe it was psychological because I was buying into this whole gluten thing, which is a real thing. Glyphosate is a real thing that messes people up, and I believe it. But I also believe you bless and curse your food accordingly. So, however, I'm not saying it's just the LifeWave patches. It's a combination of this whole thing of exploring the health, which is worth getting into, taking care of your health. But the LifeWave patches definitely help. So I started eating wheat again. And I'll tell you what, you know why? Here's how I know it was the LifeWave patches. Because the whole time we were in New Mexico, we were like, Tex-Mex. The Tex-Mex food is incredible down there. The green chilies, the chili con queso, and we would just go to these places and feel like crap. And, tortillas, blah, blah, blah.
It got to be a little much.
Whatever. It got to be a little much, whatever. Anyway, bottom line is, fast forward, we start taking these LifeWave patches, putting them on, and all of a sudden, February we went to Vermont, and it was like party time because we just gotten out of this whole tough time, and we were with Remington and Gina in Vermont at their home, and the food in Vermont is amazing. So I was just like, I don't care what happens, I'm having this stuff. And Remington is we got to say it, a coffee snob. Okay, he's just so particular. He's a numerologist, so of course he's measuring everything, the milliliters, the grams, and everything. And I'm watching him do this, and I know the guy. I know everything. I respect everything he does. He's a good friend, and like the guy's brilliant. So
he's a wizard.
He's a wizard. So I mean, I'm watching him wizard up this coffee, and I love coffee, but I can't have it. And I'm just like, I'm literally like the dog. I'm sort of like a dog when when you got food, and I'm like the big doe eyes, like, give me some coffee. And he's looking at me like, you can't have coffee. You know you're not supposed to have coffee. And he's making this with this fancy pour thing, and measures them. He's got to do the wet the filter first and heat up the thing. Anyway,
it's an art.
It was fun. It was an art. And I'm watching this. I'm like, that's a good cup of coffee. I know that's a good cup of coffee. I don't care if I got to spend the next day in bed. I need some of that coffee. So I was like, make me one of those things. He's like, oh, you want one of those? Oh yeah, I want one of those. So he made the best cup of freaking coffee I ever had in my life. And yeah, I was kind of buzzing and stuff like that because I hadn't had coffee in a while. But now I've since upped my resistance. But I was like, oh wait, this is alchemical because the way he makes it. There might be some things that aren't great for you about coffee, but there are some good things that are good for you if it's done well. Anyway, we're not going to get into the whole coffee thing. All I'm saying is that starting then and then continuing into January, February, March, I'm like now having coffee several times a week. And
I think you have it every day.
I'm not having it every day. I'd like take a break after a couple of days and have like a bunch of yogi tea, just to not be a fanatic. But let's put it this way. I'm back on the coffee and it's pretty darn good. But I can tell the difference when I'm teaching and stuff like that. So I'm not pulling back on it. Forget it. I just won't drink several hours before I teach. But the coffee's really good. And then I've been having bread. And so here's the conclusion for all of it. The life wave patches are doing something with the stem cells, reflecting the light. I'm getting stronger. I don't understand exactly, but you do your own research. You try it out. Buy them if you want. If you don't, whatever. I don't care what we get. But I just want to finish this.
Okay.
It's the quality of the food. It's the quality of the coffee. There's like Starbucks, all that other stuff out there on like mainstream coffee. The coffee beans are rushed through. They have like mycotoxins on them because they get mold basically. And so it's the quality. It's like you have really good quality stuff. And I've always said this. It's not, as long as you're not like you're drinking the coffee's not drinking you. Right, meaning that you're gonna have it. And then the same thing with the bread. Super high quality ingredients, and we bake it ourselves, and it's really good stuff. So it's the quality of stuff, and it's how you bless your food. Because ultimately, look, we're creating it, and I'm creating it. That's why we bless the food. That's why we, And Hygiene said an interesting thing. He goes, "What you do to bless your food is to smell it," and that's mind blowing because where's the nose end up? The third eye. What's at the third eye? The pituitary gland. Mm-hmm. What's the pituitary gland? The master gland. What does it do? It regulates all the other glands. You smell the food. It's a code through the nose. It tells your pituitary gland, get ready. Here comes X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. Let's get ready to enjoy it. And let's get ready to make it into energy.
Well, so, I think we bless or curse our food just by our thoughts about the food alone. Like we approach 100%. Food with this like neurotic paranoia. That is cursing the food.
It's
Whereas
the same thing with
if you're joyful about and thankful, that's why we say grace and we have gratitude, because it actually activates the positive polarity of whatever it is we're interacting with. And if it's something we're taking into our body to become a part of ourselves and fuel ourselves, when we have positive projection about it, you're automatically blessing it and activating the positive side of it. So like literally anything could be turned into a health food with the proper projection towards it. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
No, we got to get into it while we're here. All right, so we live in a world where there are some very smart but not so nice people, is how I put them, right? And they know, like, that certain things, it's easier to control people if it's those things are in the mainstream, and you can find those things, and then you're labeled a conspiracy theorist because you're like, look what they put into the this and the that, and it's true. However, this is what I'm starting to learn, is that it's a gift to have all of these obstacles and all of these things out there that are out to get us, because it forces us into blessing our food rather than cursing it. Because I see people, it's true, certain oils, certain this, certain that are not good for you, right? So they're not good for you. So, but there's always two sides to every coin. Am I going to just sit around and curse everything because it's got that in it, and then when I eat it, I'm basically poisoning myself? Or am I going to go, well, you know what? That's not so good for my energy. I'm going to find something that are good for my energy. I'm going to bless that food, like was what we done with the coffee and the bread. Like, I like those things. Let me find a way to find them.
Well,
and
they
make
also
them and do
spark
them
joy
good.
for you. Like they
Yeah,
really
exactly. It
make
make me feel good, and then that's even better.
That's
and I'm
huge.
telling you, there's been a whole transformation, because whereas I was like before, I can't have that. That's no good for me. And I'm gluten intolerant. I'm going to walk around saying that kind of stuff, and then so be it, right? And now I'm like, well, you know what? I want to drink coffee, and then little by little, somehow my body got stronger, so I could drink coffee. And somehow my body got stronger, so I could have this bread. And it does bring me. I got so excited. We were out of bread, and I had to make some this morning.
No, he gets so happy. Like, I'll be in the other room.
This is kind of...
what do you
people
mean?
Don't need to know everything.
No, it's really great. And I hope it inspires others to make things that make them happy, because I think it's awesome.
I enjoy it. Okay, I turned a corner at one point, because we have these busy lives. We're trying to do all this stuff with the teachings, and we're trying to do stuff with our business, and we're trying to do stuff with our personal life. And just like everybody, it was just busy stuff. But I had this habit, maybe it's like my whole West Point Army upbringing, the mission and blah, blah, blah. So you write off other stuff as frivolous. And so for all my life, I've been really good at cooking. I really enjoy cooking. But every time I'm cooking in the past whatever, in certain circumstances, but most of the time I'm thinking about all the things I got to do and all the things that are undone, and I'm enjoying myself, but there's a conflict going. I'm wasting time. I shouldn't be doing this. Somebody else should be doing this, right? It was like my dad with the fish. We had a fish tank, right? Carl had this fish tank down in our basement, and he got it for us, right? But he loved it. He would go to the fish store. He loved looking at it. He would clean it. He would do this stuff. But he'd always complain that we weren't doing anything with it. I'm like, dude, that's not our thing. It's your thing. Why are you blaming us, right? Because there was a part of him that it wasn't cool for a retired homicide detective, macho guy from the Lower East Side of New York to like fish and have a hobby, because it wasn't cool. And he couldn't cop to the fact that he freaking liked taking care of the fish. So he always had this conflict in his head. So anyway, I noticed that. That's interesting. So I had this conflict with the food. And also one day I was like, you know what? I enjoy this. It's giving me energy. So I'm going to stop bullshitting about it. And I'm going to take the time when I'm cooking, and I'm going to chant mantras, and I'm going to enjoy it. And, it's worked out.
I think it's beautiful.
I think we get it. This is TMI at this point.
No, it's inspiring. I think it's beautiful.
So LifeWave patches have improved my health. If you want to check them out, check them out. If you don't.
Well,
but what I'm saying, we'll put the information down there. The link will probably be to our thing.
No,
just so you know. But whatever, it doesn't matter. If you're like, they're just hawking it. Well, I don't hawk things. But you can go just straight to the website. I do that sometimes. But I think people are. When people are pushing too much, I'm like, oh yeah, you got an affiliate link? I'm going over here. Anyway, nonetheless, we don't care where you get it. We want people to do it because it works for us.
I just want people to know about options that are.
I get comfortable with promoting stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, the LifeWave patches, they seem to have worked. We'll get into the other methylene blue stuff from mitochondria another time. That's not for this. So we covered the light. We got time. We can do whatever we want. People can listen to it in pieces if they want. Or you need to have a paywall where the first hour is free, and the second hour you got to pay, because that's when we really get into this stuff.
Because for capitalists,
so the three pillars is the light, the water, and the magnetism, but they're really not separate. So let's go to the water now. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I think we beat this light to death.
No,
and then it's going to come back to life, and there's more to cover.
I think we've introduced it well.
No, we did. So then you get into water. I love our little process because you'll come up and be like, you know what? Uh, I've been hearing a lot about hydrogen and how that stuff is really good for you. And I'm like, here comes another couple grand in a device that we're going to have to get. And I'm just not comfortable with that. There's a price coming at me right now. And I'm like, but so that I'm conflicted because I know she knows her stuff and that, like, it's going to help me. But like, okay, so last time she was like, I want to get this hydrogen. How much does it cost? I think with the discount and there's a special right now, I think we can get it for $2,400. And I'm like, okay. I just think of like the superhero guys going, and the thing's coming out of my skin, and I'm like, I know it's gonna help us, but so all right, tell me about it. What's going on? Well, in Japan, they have the hydrogen in the EMT emergency vehicles because if somebody has a stroke, then the only thing that'll penetrate the brain barrier is hydrogen atoms. All right, tell me more. I'll just write it. Like, she found this thing, and I don't know. Okay, so the hydrogen, I like it. I know it works. It's not as pronounced as the Life Wave patches for me. I think it's good. I dig it. I think because you use the whatever, the purified water, and I think that we have to put minerals back into it. But I like it. I like it. But now my jury's not out on it. But I'm just saying it's not as pronounced as that. I know it. I think it works. We breathe it. You can also breathe the hydrogen. And we'll let her explain it. Explain why hydrogen water, what hydrogen does.
Okay. So I started hearing about this last year, and definitely piqued my curiosity immediately when I started hearing about what it was doing for people. And so in December, we ordered one, and then it arrived actually the day Ronnie was dying, or like died. It arrived, and I plugged it in, and obviously that was an incredibly stressful, awful, very hard time. And we started drinking the hydrogen water at that time, and I swear it was a huge help, especially in that first week. I could tell that
because we didn't have the patches at that time, so it was just the water.
And so basically hydrogen,
it did feel better. Maybe it was psychosomatic. I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so. But I felt a boost because also the water out there, we had an osmosis filter, and then I was mineralizing the water. But
but just to back up a little bit, hydrogen is the smallest element on the periodic table, right? So it's the smallest element that we as humans are aware of, and it's so small that it is part of every cell of us has hydrogen in it. And then also on a cosmic or even a poetic level, hydrogen is the stars. It's what the stars are made of. Like,
stars are made of hydrogen gas.
Yes, it's so foundational to life, hydrogen. And the way it was explained to me was that
let me make the point. Hydration, hydrogen.
Yes. The way it was explained to me was that our guts used to have more of a specific bacteria that used to produce hydrogen as a byproduct. And with the rise of industrial farming, and the just total change of farming practices over the last 50, 100 years, this natural part of our microbiome has gone way down
because the soils are depleted.
Yes,
the soils have been depleted. It used to be the natural processes, but very rich soils. Now the soils really suck. In fact, I just want to interject. Several smart people that I've heard recently talking about it have said that the nutrients in our food now are like 80 to 90% less than what they were 100 years ago.
They're demineralized.
Demineralized and
big time. Because the health of the soil, because we're using artificial, fertilizers rather than, making the actual matter that the plants are growing of have the nutrition in them, which is what healthy soil is.
In the supermarkets, like tomatoes that are gassed to make them
we're
red,
very
and
disconnected,
blah, 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 blah.
And so, anyways, that's a whole other topic.
So the gut
really
used to produce hydrogen.
More hydrogen.
Right.
So basically, hydrogen takes away inflammation, and so that's a huge thing, a benefit of taking water that has hydrogen gas bubble through it. And so, anyways, these hydrogen machines, the one we have, it's called the Lourdes Hydrofix, and in my research, it seemed to be like the best one. It's made in Japan. A lot of them are made in China with inferior parts, which can like kind of break down over time and actually create a type of water that's not healthy for you. And so it's important to me to have one that, is going to last a really long time and not turn into something that would be detrimental. But it's called the Lourdes Hydrofix because
like
Lourdes, France. Yes. So apparently I haven't been to Lourdes, but there's a spring in Lourdes that is known for having healing properties, miraculous healing. And my understanding is that science eventually, showed that water, that spring water had a higher natural content of hydrogen, and that is a big part of it creating the healing effects.
But there's also mojo.
Of course, and that is
a subject. In the mojo.
That's a subject I'd like to get into, also. But, anyways, I just felt, given my specific, challenges I've been dealing with, and also my connection to water and wanting to feel like I'm being like hydrated the best I can, because the water subject is huge, and the water that's coming out of the tap is basically dead water. And so there's lots of ways you can bring the life back into the water. And so I was extremely compelled with the idea of bubbling hydrogen through water and what that could do for my health, and drinking that every day. So anyways, we've been drinking it since then, which is like 4 months, and I think it's been pretty profound. Something I'd like to do is start breathing it more, because this machine that we got, you can actually breathe the hydrogen. And like he was mentioning, in Japan, these hydrogen machines are actually in all of the EMT ambulances, because if someone's having a stroke, if they can start breathing hydrogen right away, it can actually keep the parts of the brain alive while they're in transit to getting more help. It's like a really powerful like stopgap measure, and I thought, well, that's really interesting. That it's that beneficial for the brain. What would it do for somebody that isn't having a stroke? And also what I love about hydrogen is that it's so part of life that it's not like a toxic thing. Like anybody can do it, like pregnant people or women could even do it. So I just think, not people, pregnant women, but like, because a lot of experimental or new health things, there's like qualifications or limitations on recommendations, but hydrogen is so safe because it is so foundational. And also, you're breathing it bubbled through water. You're not breathing pure hydrogen gas, which is flammable. We all know that. But I just listened to this other podcast about how the Hindenburg is actually like totally like a manufactured event
to get people away from it.
So we're gonna put that in the show notes too, because that's a whole other rabbit hole. It's so interesting.
It did blow up though, because my grandfather had a piece of the Hindenburg, but it wasn't hydrogen.
But you guys have to listen to, if you're into this stuff at all. We'll link it.
What's the name of the podcast?
I just sent it to you, but we'll link it. Anyways, I don't want to get too off topic, but
thank God.
Anyways,
I was just about to get yelled at for not looking.
That's
the email. I sent you that email.
No, I just
have you looked at it?
I texted you.
I was texting you. See there.
Anyways,
now, I'm gonna get it after this. The camera stops rolling.
So, anyways, that's my little spiel on hydrogen, and I think it's been really fun to experiment with, and it's just it's another tool in the toolkit.
Yeah, I think it works really good. There was something you were saying.
But why don't you talk a little bit about how you make our water and you bring the life back into the water? Because I think that's a huge practical thing.
That's a good practical thing. All right, so before, we've been into water for years now. Because thank you, you reminded me. So that there's she mentioned hydration, which I think it's fascinating that they're saying hydrogen is such an important part of health. And the word hydration is the same root as hydrogen, and water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen, right? H2O. So there's something to that. But then they blew up the Hindenburg to keep us away from it.
No, that's not it.
See, that's the thing. I love a good conspiracy. That's why I got so far down on the food path. Anyway, so the water is extremely important, as we know. And so years ago now, I started getting into water. In fact, everybody knows this, but typically people don't drink enough water. And there's somebody even went so far as to write a book called The Water Cure, which I don't know how they made it a whole book, because basically it's like, you don't drink enough water. If you drink more water, you can heal everything. That's pretty much what that book is about. I didn't read it. I just looked at the title and went, oh, I get it. Cure everything with water. And call me a genius, whatever. But I noticed that the quality of water that we were getting is lacking. And so I started to study it a little bit. And then I came across Victor Schauberger, who was at the turn of the century in Germany or Austria, very, very intelligent man who worked for the Forest Service. And he started to notice things just from being in the forest and watching the water, and how the water swirls. And I mean, there's just so much there that's way more to unpack. We could do a whole show about that. But Victor Schauberger discovered stuff. In fact, he went so deep into the way water swirls and that the energy of that he found that spiral, which is also the golden mean, what he led him to create an anti-gravity device. And then there's a whole thing where he got, he got subverted by some people who
discouraged.
He got discouraged. Let's put it that way. Yeah, very politely. He wrote to the government about it and said, he was well known, and they basically came back and said, we can't promote this. We're taking kickbacks from all these other people. They came out and pretty much said that. And then he sort of disappeared, and so did his work. But anyway, what he discovered, and there's a great documentary on YouTube. If you just we'll put it in the show notes. But he discovered all this stuff, and so there's actually like an energy in water. So I started experimenting with putting like magnets and spiraling the water in. But what we discovered along with that is that the water that we get comes through the pipes, and it's very, very square and not really. It doesn't move like water's supposed to move. Water's supposed to move in a serpentine fashion, just like that the pretty much the Z energy that kundalini is and everything. And we've been in our municipalities, we've put the water into this very sort of square, going through these pipes and up into the house and out and there, and it's just unnatural. So the water is not flowing to us naturally, and so it loses all of its energy. Like Victor Schauberger in one part of the documentary discovered that, why are the fish all collecting in this one area? He noticed the water was moving in a type of a spiral, and it was deep and at a certain temperature. And he realized that the water is actually giving off like electromagnetic energy, and that the fish were basically, those like charging stations for the fish. And again, that's how he came to learn about magnetism and anti-gravity. So in addition to like the energy that water can be programmed, we know that. So the water can have energy, and what are they called? Structured water. Structured water is water where the atoms are at the hydrogen and oxygen atoms are at a beneficial angle, so that they can actually penetrate your cells. So a lot of this square water, let's just call it square water. I'm from that time when you're like, you people are squares. Because you ain't hip like me and Jamila. She's like this. Yeah, I said something earlier. We could have to start over a couple of times. She didn't like what I said. Anyway, we'll do outtakes at some point because people enjoy it.
Yeah, that'll be good.
So there's so the water is not structured properly to hydrate your cells, because the hydrogen and oxygen atoms are at not a beneficial angle. So when water in nature, spring water, is naturally ionized with minerals, and also it's structured by the crystals and the different rocks and the way it's moving through nature. And that's why spring water is so good for you. So I started to study this stuff, and then I went, we need a little of that in our lives. So from my studies, basically what I discovered, what we did was we bought these. We can't really show you because they're it's not in the frame, but right to Jamila's left, there's these water bottles that we bought that are glass bottles. Hey, here we go. And it's got the flower of life inscribed on the bottle. And we get them from...
Well, we'll link it. I don't remember. But they actually deliver...
We're going to have to watch this whole thing again just to remember everything.
They deliver living spring water.
Yeah, it's called Living Water.
Which is fantastic, but it's a little pricey, and I like the way that we just
do it ourselves.
We revitalize
we
the water.
Re-springalize the water ourselves. So anyway, we put them in jars. And so having the glass, number one, is a very good thing. Plastic is not so beneficial. The glass with the flower of life, I find that we put it with the pattern of that flower of life. It imprints we don't get on sometimes water will get moldy and stuff like that. It doesn't happen here, only for long periods of time and when it's hot. But it's remarkable. It doesn't. We also use it up very quickly. But so they take the water and we use osmosis water, which strips everything out, by the way. And it's also kind of square. But I put the water in one of these bottles using a funnel, and I make sure that the water is at an angle where it swirls, and that gets that natural swirl that you see in nature. And then I remineralize it. So I take, we make this stuff called sole. And what you do is you take sea salt, and you put the sea salt, you got to get the proportions right. But, I don't know if you've ever taken chemistry, like a super saturated solutions, where you make a solution out of something, and there's so much of the solid material in there, and you get enough water just so it dissolves, right? You do that. Remember in chemistry when you made the rock crystal candy? So you dissolve so much sugar with the hot water that when it cooled down, you could put a string in there and then it would crystallize again. So we're not crystallizing the salt, but what we do is we make this stuff called sole. There's just so much salt in there that it's just...
it's a fully saturated water.
Saturated. So as much salt as you can get in there, you just put the water in there until it's all dissolved. But and then you take that, and I put about a tablespoon per gallon in there. Sometimes it comes out a little salty, but basically I'll take that, I put it in those glass jars, I make sure it spirals in there, and then I add the minerals back into it. And then it sits there. And then also, you can't see it, but we have a bunch of crystals in the bottom of
we have some because you were cleaning it.
So, yeah. Well, we have quartz crystals.
For the people...
And then shungite.
For the people just listening, it's this shungite. Why don't you tell them about shungite? And it's noble shungite.
This is called noble, or there's another
elite.
Name for it. Elite shungite. There's different kinds of shungite. You have to get the super highest quality to put it in your water. Otherwise, there's other impurities if you can't just use regular shungite. But shungite is an amazing, just look it up and you'll see the properties. It comes out of Russia, and it basically, and it's also good for electromagnetic pollution. So shungite will pull out the bad EMFs out of the air. We have them next to the computer. It
harmonizes. It doesn't pull out. It harmonizes.
Harmonizes. So it makes it rehabilitates the juvenile delinquent EMFs and makes them proper for society. Yeah. But anyways, you can get that, and we put quartz in there. I also have a silver coin in there.
Because quartz it's programmed. You can program energy with quartz. Because quartz is
has an extra electron.
Well, it has a piezoelectric effect, which means it has an energy current. So we're crossing over into the magnetism part of this 3 pillars, which I think is really cool.
We don't really cross over
because it's all interconnected.
Yeah. So that's another thing. So the 3 pillars: light, magnetism, and water. So we charge our water with electromagnetic energy by using the quartz crystal. So
the shungite.
And the shungite, balances it out. Doesn't take out the bad stuff. You see, I'm very Piscean, but I'm getting there. So just a word, I always have to disclaim this stuff because I'm from the Bronx and Queens and from that age. Like, I just always see my friends going, oh, he's talking about crystals and it's freaking water now. Oh, okay, click. Because there are people out there like that. But honestly, I don't care anymore because there's so much damn proof in the information age that you don't even have to disclaim anything anymore. But I just find it fascinating that when I was a kid, at Radio Shack, you could go and buy a radio set and build your own radio. And what did they have in there connected to all the wires? quartz crystals. So you use quartz crystals in order to pick up radio waves, AM and FM radio waves, and you could create your own little radio using quartz crystals. So it's not that crazy.
Anybody that laughs about using crystals, or you should laugh about using your phone or your laptop or any kind of computer, because that's all silicon-based technology. Yeah. It's crystalline technology.
At this point, the cat's out of the bag. So I started structuring the water. And it tastes remarkable. It tastes like spring water to me. I think it tastes. I mean, of course, I made it.
No, it tastes really good, and we've had a lot of friends that say, "Oh, your water, I actually feel hydrated." They kind of get obsessed with the water that he makes.
Take it easy. People will be knocking on our door. We don't need that.
No, but the point is that you can do this too, and maybe we'll do a video that's like just you showing how you do it.
Oh, definitely. I'm gonna show them how to make bread and everything. Why not?
Well, we're homesteaders basically in Los Angeles. we like to make everything.
It's little house on the prairie.
Little house
on Bruce Road.
Yeah. Little house in West LA.
They haven't given away too much of the enemies. Knock it off. Okay, so so the water and the magnetism.
Yeah, so let's talk about magnetism.
Let's talk about it. You're the expert. You got me into this. So the magnetism in terms of, well, this is really great, because the magnetism in terms of the pillars of health, that's all Kundalini yoga right there. I mean, and everything in that we've talked about with water and light is all interrelated. I mean, those three pillars are basically covered by Kundalini yoga. So you have Satanama, which is the longer version of Satnam, and Satnam. That, when you chant that mantra, it balances the 5 elements, or the 5 tattvas in the body, which are earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Right? So those 5 elements get balanced by the vibration of that mantra. When you chant that mantra, when you say Satnam, you're setting a vibration that balances the 5 elements in the body. If they're more out of whack, you might have to chant it more, but if you have the power of the sound and you just say Satnam, you could balance all 5 elements in an instant if the power of the sound current was there and projected strong enough. Number 1. So magnetism, we are electromagnetic beings, and a lot of that has been lost in modern medicine. And we're getting back to like that if you work with these things that we're talking about, water, light, and magnetism, you can really improve your health. So essentially everything we do in Kundalini yoga is to expand the electromagnetic field and to relate to the electromagnetic field of the earth and the interlocking, interwoven electromagnetic fields unto infinity. That's essentially what we're working with. So it makes perfect sense. And the techniques, the technology of Kundalini yoga uses this apparatus, this mind-body bioorganic computer, to create an extremely powerful version of a human being, essentially, by doing that very thing, balancing the 5 elements in the body, the 10 bodies, the 10 energy bodies, the glandular system, which is the key to it all. The glandular system in the body is the key to this electromagnetic light energy. And the glands are the guardians of the health, as the saying goes, but the glands is what does it all. The glands is what gets you the hormonal system, the what do you call it, endocrine system. The hormones in the body are what allows you to interface with all of these energies and communicate your energy with these interlocking electromagnetic fields. And how it works is that your glands secrete hormones. That's chemical energy. So you do certain things, you breathe a certain way, or you have a reaction to stress, and your glands react based on input and output, right? And so that chemical energy gets secreted by the glands into the bloodstream. It changes your blood chemistry, which sends signals to the brain, and then it changes your brain chemistry. which then in turn, like energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just changes form. So you have chemical energy changing through your emotions, through your breath, through everything, changing your electromagnetic configuration. And so what your signals you're sending out and receiving, depending on stress or joy or whatever it is that's happening, you're essentially communicating with the environment, give me this based on what I'm sending out. Magnetism. And that's essentially what Kundalini Yoga does. It helps you to balance all the best of this apparatus so that I'm functioning on the highest, most beneficial level that I can to attract the things that give me more enjoyment, more of the positive, promoting things that we came here on this planet to enjoy. And so that's pretty much, that ties it all together. That ties the electromagnetic.
I love your explanation of it. And another piece I'd like to just talk about, because it's super foundational, especially in the realm that I mentioned earlier, like the mitochondriacs and the Jack Kruse line of thought, which he's a really interesting doctor, health thought leader. You can look up if you don't know about his work already.
KRUSE.
KRUSE. Yes. So look him up. But it's the importance of putting your bare feet on the earth. Like that is so key to these three foundations of health. The electromagnetic portion of it is connecting your electromagnetic body to the electromagnetic body of the earth daily, and that can be tough when you're in a cold climate or you in a city. But I think it's like with like a lot of things, it's baby steps. It's the first step is just becoming aware that that's something you should do, and then when you have the opportunity to do it, because I think a lot of times we don't even think that is something we need to do. And then so you might be at a park or whatever, and you could easily throw off your shoes, but you don't, because you were never even introduced to the idea of it. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that out.
And that's
there
huge.
Too.
That's actually quite huge, because growing up in New York, like, you can take your shoes off. First of all, everything's dirty, and then you don't take your shoes off because it's weird. Show people your feet.
Yeah,
I'm serious.
We're total California people.
Well, now,
we should just admit.
Such a hippie now. I don't even care anymore.
It's great.
But
it's great.
But here's the thing. So all of a sudden you were introduced to rubber-soled shoes. What does rubber do? It insulates electromagnetic fields, right? It cuts off electromagnetic fields. There's not accidents, people. These are conspiracies that we have to get to the bottom of right away. But then we have to be positive them and use them like martial arts to our own advantage.
Yes.
That's my pitch. But no, okay, so you got electromagnetic cut off by rubber-soled shoes, and what, even the leather, that cuts it, right?
No, leather's good.
My bad, leather's good. Wear leather shoes if you have to wear them around the house.
Leather soled.
Leather soled. So the rubber-soled shoes, and then I've been pitching this in class a lot. You have to get your feet onto the earth. When you put your feet on the earth, the viscosity of your blood increases, because the earth instantly starts giving you electrons through your skin, through your electromagnetic field,
powerful.
Through conduction. So it's really nature on the grass, not so much the concrete and the asphalt, the sand, going to the ocean water. All these things are tremendously beneficial that we need to start doing again. Healing. And if you just start doing these things, you'll get more energy. So it comes down to, okay, who cares if there's a conspiracy or not? Some things happen, and we got away from stuff that. So we essentially started doing things that give us less energy. So what? Now we know that we can do things to give us more energy.
Well,
so we're gonna
we learn through contrast, right?
Yeah.
I honestly think everything is a blessing if you look at it in the right angle and the right light.
100%.
So I'm grateful.
So, and the other thing is, so getting out in nature, obviously getting the sun in your sunlight in the morning and in the evening. And then also trees. Like if you just touch a tree, that's like, people make jokes about tree huggers.
Oh, grounding with trees is so powerful.
I'll tell you something. People think you're crazy when you do stuff, but
you're outing yourself. It's great.
Yeah.
You outed yourself a long time ago.
Outing myself as a hippie. Let me say that now with all this.
No,
things
I
going
think
on.
it's fantastic.
People get the wrong idea. But all right, so I went to this empowerment in New York with the Karmapa, and it was at Queens College, close to where I grew up. And I was there outside, and there was a very distinguished Lama who I didn't know at the time, but another Lama that I'm on Instagram with, I posted a picture of him, and he said, "Oh, that's actually one of the Karmapa's teachers, which is highly esteemed position to be in." And the point is that he was just an older Lama, and I was walking across the campus, we were on a break from the empowerment, and I look over and he's standing with his spine very straight up against the back of a tree, and he just looked so majestic doing it, and I was like, that's really cool. So if anybody else would have been doing it, like, oh, look at that tree hugger, but this guy with the robes, the crimson robes, you're like, he knows something. And so I watched and I went, and I looked at him, and out of respect, I held up my camera, or the phone camera, and said, may I take a picture of you? And he nodded yes. And so I asked permission, and then I took a picture. And I still have that picture somewhere.
Oh, wow, you gotta find it.
I don't know if I had the picture or it got zapped. My phone got zapped shortly after that. And and I wondered about that for a while. So I didn't know what it was about, but I just started doing it because I was like, this guy teaches the Karmapa. And for those of you who don't know, the Karmapa, there's 4 streams of Buddhism, and the Dalai Lama is the yellow hats. And
I thought it was 4 streams of Tibetan Buddhism.
Tibetan Buddhism, pardon me. 4 streams, thank you for that. 4 streams of Tibetan Buddhism, and the Dalai Lama is, we all know him very famously, but he's the head of one lineage, and there are other lineages. The Karmapa is the head of another lineage, and so I just started doing it every once in a while. In fact, we were somewhere with Rachel, and she just started laughing at me. When I had my back against the tree, she started taking pictures, and she's all over Instagram, and I know she was going to say something.
She really, loved it, though.
I know she loved it. I said, you do not post that. Because no, I just had a feeling she was going to say something, too funny. Let's put it that way. Anyway, I was living in Savannah. So I started doing it, and I felt amazing. Like, you put your back up against a tree, and all of a sudden you feel the energy come right up. And I thought, and it's even better if you're barefoot, right by the tree. And so, but again, growing up in New York, there's all kind of stuff where you've been it's just weirdo stuff. Like, you were programmed to think it was weirdo stuff, which sucks because kids do stuff like this all the time.
It was very much more dense back then.
Yeah, exactly. So that wasn't revisionist history. I know.
Also, you didn't need this type of stuff back then. Now, look around.
That's true. You could just have a beer back then and everything was fine.
Yeah, right? Seriously.
That was definitely the world.
No,
the world has changed.
The energy has shifted so much in this amount of time.
So anyway, that's the electromagnetism. We have to get our bodies in contact with the earth. And then there's the teaching, which I love, about everybody wants prosperity, especially nowadays. Prosperity, money. There's a teaching that if your electromagnetic field doesn't penetrate the earth for at least 25 feet, so your energy field has to get ground down and transfer and receive electrons 25 feet down. And you can't be truly prosperous unless your aura penetrates the earth deeply like that. So
I think that's a really
good. Make you rich by walking.
It's a good teaching. It also gives another layer to the meaning of the importance of being grounded.
Yeah.
So
they call it grounding. You can look that up too.
Well, grounding, that's the practice of connecting to the earth, which you might, or earthing.
No, that gets too. That's
no, it's an actual
I know, but there's certain things I shine to and certain things I don't shine.
It doesn't matter what you feel about it. It's something somebody can look up and learn more about. That's all.
What was the thing we were making fun of before?
I don't know. Put it in the show notes.
It was something. What we talked about.
I have no idea.
I made fun of it, and then I was like, well, but now we do it.
Oh, there's so many things like that. So take your pick.
Yeah, right. So I hardly. The only time I wear shoes now is when I absolutely have to because I'm going out.
Yeah,
walking on the street. I'm just barefoot in the house all the time.
We're lucky to live.
I remember. I won't mention his name, but a friend of mine from West Point. I live in New York City. He came home with me for leave one time, and he comes into my house, and he takes his shoes off and he sat on the couch. We were like hanging out, and I love this guy. I'm still friends with him to this day, and I'm not gonna miss his name, but like we're New Yorkers, man. And he came in and he took his shoes off and and of course he's like the happiest guy I know. He's one of the happiest guys I know, and that's why, because he like naturally did things that made himself feel better. But I remember looking at him like creeped out, like, why are you taking your shoes off in my house? That's so weird.
Oh my God.
Like, I was totally weird. But you know, it's not that
really
weird.
Changed.
Okay, all right, so look, all right. Let me just put it in perspective. Sebastian Maniscalco, very funny comic. He's very famous now. If you don't know him, you probably will know him soon. Just look him up. Very funny Italian guy from Chicago. So he's got the Chicago accent, but I understand because the Italian from New York and that kind of stuff. He does a whole bit about taking your shoes off.
Really?
Actually was, you know what? You know where it was? It was on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. That's easier to find. Just go watch the episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Sebastian Maniscalco. I'm not putting that in the show notes. You got to listen. If you didn't get this far, you're out. But he goes on a whole thing about taking your shoes off in somebody's house. Anyway, it was funny because I could relate. Because my friend, who I'm not mentioning his name.
Well, you should take your shoes off in your own house.
You should be barefoot as much as you possibly
and in your
can.
backyard.
And then there's that other thing with Kundalini Yoga, that we do Kundalini Yoga barefoot, which of course at first I was like, and
take off your socks.
But take off your socks when you do Kundalini Yoga, because the apana, which is the negative charge of the prana. Prana is, well, we call it the prana, the positive charge, the apana, the negative charge. The apana is the eliminative force. So you have a force that brings the energy in, and then you have a force that gets rid of stuff, right? So going to the bathroom is an aponic energy, and these are actually things that move out of your body. So you get rid of garbage that you don't need, that you're not.
It's one of like the 20-some airs of the body, right? There's specific ways that energy flows through the body, and they all have names. Like, it's a very sophisticated Ayurvedic science.
It's an ongoing study,
and it's also, it's
the vayus are called
different
the airs. There's 5 vayus, which are the main airs, the main way that the prana moves in the body.
But there's like 20-some.
They also have different. They have different qualities and purposes. But the apana is what moves you, and when that gets out of balance, the prana and the apana, when you don't get rid of stuff, and that happens, it's interrelated with the mind. So you people who have a lot of stuff they can't throw out, that's an aponic imbalance. In fact, there's in the book Prana Prani Pranayam, it's in a couple of books. It's the same exercise. It's a set of 3 exercises in a kriya, and it's titled For Unknown Cause of Sickness. So if you look that up, you'll find it somewhere online. But for unknown cause of sickness, and what it is you put like your one hand, let's say the left hand out, and your right leg back, and you have to balance. And if there's an imbalance here in the navel where the prana and the apana come together, you won't be able to hold it. And that will, by doing that exercise, it brings it into balance. But the point being that the aponic energy, the 72,000 nerve endings in the feet and in the hands. So we have this nervous system that you have nerve endings, 72,000 of them, this nexus of nerves ends in the feet. And that's where the energy gets transferred out, the aponic force in the feet. And it's also the soul. Why is it called the soul of the feet? Because the soul is there, right? And that's why we touch the feet of the masters. They call it the lotus feet, because what is a lotus flower? It's the flower sits on top of the water at the surface, but the roots go way down into the mud, right? So the symbolism of the lotus flower or the lotus feet of the master, where you sit at the feet of the master, you touch the feet of the master, because here's a realized being, and the feet is the roots on the earth, and the enlightened being, he lives up on the surface in the sun. Right, that's the idea behind
I thought that there's also an arc line that develops.
There is an arc line at the feet
of really realized people. Not everybody has
highly realized beings have. There's an arc.
Well, we should put a pin in that for the next time, because definitely. I think we should go into the arc lines relating to electromagnetic energy and all that.
Go for it.
No, next time.
Next time.
I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up here. Some of the earlier episodes has been on for like almost 2 hours, but people have short attention spans these days. So that's our 3 pillars of health that we just scratched the surface on. We keep, all these things are interrelated, so we end up coming back to them.
I think we should keep talking about this because we've only hit on a couple things in each of the categories, and I think you could really go on for quite a long time.
Quite a long time, and also still be interesting.
Well, or still have value, to exactly. Inspire somebody.
Life is a discovery, and if you stop learning, I learned this because I was of the idiotic camp of big egos that think everything. You're supposed to posture yourself like you know everything, and that's how you know somebody's stupid.
Well, it's certificate consciousness too, where if you have degree, if you have a degree, that means you know everything, and that you're the expert. Where you stop learning, but meanwhile, life keeps going and the things keep developing, and if you're not keep paying attention, you're going to be like one of the old fogey dinosaurs for too long.
Well, the whole old system is breaking apart, and that old system, which certificate consciousness comes from art teacher Hari Jivan, he termed that certificate consciousness. It's everybody's like, I'm a certified 200 million hour yoga, blah 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 blah, level 6 instructor of this and that, and that just doesn't work anymore in the Piscean. It worked in the Piscean age, which was a hierarchy. It doesn't work in the Aquarian age anymore because we're all energetic beings, and now it's the yin and the yang. Maybe you have a teacher who has some energy, but it's like in Tibetan Buddhism, that teacher of the Karmapa was once the student, and the student was once the teacher, and they passed the teachings on, and no one is better than the other. It's a flow, and that's where we are at in the Aquarian. It's a flow. So, but it's a good point that Jamila makes, which is that we have this degree consciousness that comes from the old time, which was valid because that was in the Piscean age, and having a degree got you where you needed to go, and that kind of stuff. But it also, it's just an old idea. And the trap in that old idea is that I have this certificate and I don't need to know anymore, and I know more than you, and then the ego gets involved, and I'm the teacher and you're the student, and you should bow down because I am better than you. But that is a poison pill now. It just doesn't work anymore. And it's very, very important, especially for teachers, to recognize that it's that flow, and that you're in a class and I'm learning as I'm going. I've got a concept that I've gone into the teachings and it turns me on, and I know a little bit about it and I've had some experience with it. But inevitably, in my excitement to teach that thing, something new drops in. But it's because I'm open to it and I'm looking for that. And I got that. I'm grateful to my teacher, because without him, I wouldn't have that at all. Because I was very much the opposite of that in the past. But so how do we get on certificate consciousness? The idea of like, the point is,
we're just saying. I was saying we can share more in the future because we're always learning and finding out more. But also, each of these subjects are huge inside of itself, and so I look forward to sharing more if people are interested, especially.
The idea is that there's always more to learn, and if you lose that, then basically you're dying.
You're just getting all dusty and old.
Yeah,
that's boring.
If you don't, there's it never stops. There's always more to learn, and I've recently adopted that posture, and my life has been greatly enriched by it. Because
Absolutely.
there's always something to be learned from everything, and I cringe when I look back, thinking when I do certain jobs because I just needed the money, and I didn't stop to look around or even relate to the people there. And there was so much richness there because every one of those souls is infinity, and every place there is that. Yeah, it was a sucky job, of course it was, but like in the early days when you're young and you have a sucky job, but there's always something to be learned there.
Well, there's always a portal. You can find it if you're looking.
Yeah, there's always a benefit in every situation. Anyway, so we beat that horse dead enough. The 3 pillars, there'd be lots of stuff in the show notes if we can remember it all. I'm going to rely on Jamila to tell me everything I need to put in there. But thank you very much for joining us on this journey of the 3 pillars of health, which it's a good frame to put around it.
Well, we're learning, and I just like to share what's been helpful for me. So I can feel like it wasn't just for
naught.
Exactly.
And next time we'll work on having a big finish, crescendo. This time we're going out real easy. Sometimes the story ends like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll end it right there.
Cool.
Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Take some action because that will help other people get it. It's all down below there or somewhere. Find us. We're on all the social media platforms. She's much more interesting, and her channel is much more beautiful than mine because she's an artist and she has really great stuff on there. But I have some good stuff there too. Give a little credit. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of that stuff is there. If you get a chance, like them, subscribe to them, so that other people end up getting it. We grow and we get the message out to more people. This is the One Flow Podcast. I'm jaigopal. This is Jamila. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you.